Kind old lady shelters, 15 bikers in a snowstorm. Next morning, 100 bikes lined her driveway. The wind howled like a pack of wolves across the Montana plains, dragging with it sheets of icy snow that blurred the world into white. Trees bent under the weight of frost, fences disappeared beneath drifts, and highways became treacherous ribbons of ice. On that night, no sane traveler dared the road. But 15 men, wrapped in leather and steel, were not exactly known for being sane travelers. They were bikers, members of the Iron Serpents Motorcycle Club, a rough but loyal brotherhood known across states for their roaring engines, tattoos, and intimidating presence. They weren't out to cause trouble that evening. They were simply trying to get home after a long charity ride for veterans when the blizzard struck harder than any of them expected. The unexpected shelter. The 15 men rode their Harleys in a tight line, engines growling against the storm, but soon the snow thickened into a white wall. Roads vanished. Tires slipped. Even their powerful machines were no match for nature's fury. "Boss, we ain't gonna make it like this," shouted Rocco, his beard already stiff with ice. Their leader, a towering man named Hank Bulldog Carter, raised his gloved hand and pulled the group over near a bend where a flickering light could be seen through the storm. At first they thought it might be a gas station, but as they rolled closer, engines sputtering, the shape of an old farmhouse appeared, warm light glowing through lace-curtained windows. Smoke drifted from a brick chimney, a beacon of survival. Hank dismounted, stomped the snow from his boots, and walked up to the creaky porch. He raised his massive hand to knock, but the door opened before he could. There she stood, a tiny old lady in a faded floral apron, silver hair tied back, eyes twinkling like Christmas lights. "My goodness," she said, peering past Hank at the row of frostbitten bikers. "You boys look colder than icicles on a roof. Don't just stand there. Come inside before you freeze solid." The men exchanged startled glances. Most people bolted doors when they saw their jackets and tattoos. Yet here was this frail woman, alone in a farmhouse, welcoming them as if they were her own grandsons. "Ma'am, we don't mean no trouble," Hank said cautiously. "Just looking for shelter till this storm dies." "Trouble?" She chuckled. "Fiddlesticks. Trouble is letting men freeze outside when I've got a fire going. Bring your boots, bring your bellies, and bring your hearts. The good Lord gave me a big house for a reason." And with that, she stepped aside. One by one, the 15 iron serpents ducked their heads and entered. Warmth in the cold. The farmhouse smelled of fresh bread and cinnamon. The fire roared in a stone fireplace, and quilts were stacked high on a cedar chest. The bikers, dripping with melted snow, stood awkwardly in her living room, their tattoos and leather vests a sharp contrast to her lace doilies and porcelain figurines. "Name's Eleanor," she said cheerfully, "but everyone calls me Ellie. Now sit yourselves down. Supper's about ready." Ma'am," one biker muttered. "There's 15 of us." Ellie waved her hand. 1550, doesn't matter. I cooked extra. Always do." Within minutes, the men were seated at her long oak table, staring at bowls of steaming stew, hot cornbread, and jars of homemade pickles. They ate like starving wolves, and Ellie fussed over them, ladling seconds, laughing at their stories, and even scolding them gently if they forgot to say, "Thank you." By the time the fire crackled low and the wind battered the shutters, the 15 bikers had turned into 15 little boys under Ellie's care. She tucked quilts around them as they stretched out on couches, rugs, and even the hallway floor. "Rest easy, sons," she whispered. "This house keeps everyone safe." And for the first time that night, hardened men with scar. A ripple of kindness. The Iron Serpent stood proudly at her side, almost protective of the little woman who had taken them in. Hank raised his voice over the crowd. "This lady gave us shelter when no one else would have. From this day on, she's family. Anyone got a problem with that?" 100 voices roared back, "No problem." And so it began. The bikers shoveled her driveway, stacked firewood higher than her porch roof, fixed her sagging barn door, and even repaired the old pickup truck she hadn't driven in years. Every week after, someone stopped by, sometimes with groceries, sometimes just to sit and drink tea. On holidays, her farmhouse became the gathering place for bikers from 3 counties. The little old lady who once lived alone became known as Mother Ellie, patron saint of the road. Tough men who had seen prison, loss, and violence came to her for advice, a hot meal, or just the comfort of her prayers. She never asked for payment, never judged their past. Kindness, she said, is the only road worth riding. Legacy of the bikes. Years later, people would still talk about that storm. The night 15 bikers nearly froze, only to be saved by the warmth of one gentle soul. They spoke of how the next morning, 100 bikes lined her driveway, and how that single act of kindness changed the hearts of men who thought they'd seen it all. Ellie lived to a ripe old age, her farmhouse never lonely again. When she passed, hundreds of bikers escorted her to her rest, engines rumbling like a hymn across the plains. And if you ever drive through Montana and see a small white farmhouse with lace curtains, you might notice something unusual. Bikes, sometimes 10, sometimes 50, parked outside, their riders sitting around a kitchen table, eating stew and telling stories of Mother Ellie, the kind old lady who once sheltered 15 bikers in a snowstorm. Because kindness, like engines on the open road, carries farther than you can ever imagine.